Hello everybody, welcome back to Sprueverse, my scale model universe. People of Earth, welcome to a brand new build. Oh yes, we've gone epic. We have gone epic this week. And so let me start at the beginning, and hopefully you won't tune out. It's very exciting, I promise you. We're going to build the ATST from Empire Strikes Back with the actual motion control armature that is part of this. So it's almost a replica of the actual filming miniature. Pretty exciting. This is from Merlin. Now, I ordered this kit 2 years ago. I kid you not. It took 2 years to get here. Go back through my videos. You'll see there's a complete unboxing of the kit once it had arrived. The guys over there have produced a very impressive kit. Very impressive. So a big shout out to the Merlin guys and Josh over there, who has been very good at communicating and sharing as much information as he can. Very bold of them to go through this. But having said all of that, I'm a very impatient modeler, and waiting 2 years for a kit was not exactly my idea of a good time. But hey, it's here and we're off to the races. Now, before I get going on the build, which is going to be in two parts. The first part is building the armature itself, the motion control armature. And the second part is actually building, which has a frame as well, of course. And the second part is actually applying all of the model parts to the frame itself. And then, of course, there'll be painting and final washes and details on top of it. And it sits on a very impressive base that is all provided for you. So we'll go through all of those elements as we go. So now, a big shout out to my dear friend Murray down in Australia, an awesome human being, and we've become friends. And Murray is very helpful because, you know, he has... well, you know, when we talk about left brain, right brain, I'm not sure what kind of brain I have, but it's a mushy brain. But he has been incredibly helpful. And he also has been on this journey waiting for his own kit. But, you know, he's much more ensconced in this world than I am. But he's been very helpful. And when we started talking about things, it got pretty funny because I said, you know, there was no manual that came with the kit. They promised it later. I guess there were some printing issues. How to build it, videos are online, and we are going to be using those videos. I'm going to be using them as I go because this is quite complicated. So that's part one. Part two is that the actual build guide did finally arrive. Here it is in front of me, and this build guide is it's interesting. I've never seen one like it. This build guide is actually created like a graphic novel, which I'm not sure I'm in love with, but this is what we've got, and we'll be grateful we've got something. Hey, that's where my head is these days. I used to be this grouch who complained about everything. These days, I'm just grateful all the parts are in the box. Okay, so we have our guide. We have our videos from the guys over at Merlin taking us through everything. But then Murray said, okay, well, there are a couple of parts missing, and they weren't supplied with the kit. Now, if you're going to be completely detail-oriented and know what was on the actual ILM filming miniature, you would need the parts. And I said, well, what's missing? He said, oh, parts B12 and 13 from the Morsa Carl 172 scale from Hasegawa. And he sends me a photo. Here's the photo. And I said, okay, I need to get that. He said, you need to get that. So what did I do? I went out and got it. The Morsa Carl. Oh, yes. And here's a photo he sent me, Murray, of the parts that are missing. Yes, there they are. And so what have I got? I've pulled that B sprue from the Morse Carl, and we have it on the bench. Oh, yes. Then he said to me, you know, you might want the decals. I said, decals? He said, yeah. He said, decals. And he sent me a photo of those. Here that is. So I went on Etsy, got my decals. I said, okay, we're getting there. I've got my decals. So when I started, the other thing he said, you're going to need your 2.5 millimeter I-beam plastic for that part. Okay. So what did I do? Went out and got it. Here it is. I have that in front of me on the bench. Good to go. Not quite yet. When you look at the videos from Merlin, they say, okay, here's what you're going to need to build your armature. Okay, you're going to need a snap ring wrench. Don't have one. Do now. Here it is, my snap ring wrench, ready to go. You're also going to need some thread lock. Okay, here we go. Got my thread lock right here, ready to go with my snap ring wrench. What else do you need? I said. Is there anything else you need? Oh yes, you're going to need a set of these hex screw wrenches or screwdriver, flathead and a Phillips head, some CA glue, some Gorilla Glue. I've got my Gorilla Glue here. And then you're going to need, I don't know what else you need. I think I've got everything we need. So here we go. Okay. So a big thank you to Murray down in Australia. Bless you. I hope you follow along. But don't laugh at me, please, because if I need your help, I know where to find you. But hey, I'm thrilled you're along on this ride with me. So let's dive in. Okay, here we go. Part 1, Stage 1, Section 1, Number 1. I'm a little goofy today because I've gone through all of the inventory. I've made sure that I'm ready to go. And, over prepared, but you can never be over prepared. Okay, so the first thing we're going to do is we're going to install 4 screws into this plate here. This is the main body brace. That's what it is. And so the way we're going to do that is we're going to take these 4 screws and we're going to use a little bit of our thread lock. They want you to use a little bit of thread lock on the tip of this. And we're going to install these screws. Now, they claim that this is the easy bit. So, all right. So just a little bit on. You don't need a lot. Just a little bit on the tip here, and we're going to cross. We're going to cross them, meaning in order to make sure that we get a good kind of bite. We're going to do one there, and then we're going to do one here, and then we're going to cross over. And the caution here, is that once you have put this Loctite in, these screws aren't coming out. That's the caution. So be careful. Do your thing. And then and make sure that you're double, triple checking what you're doing. Okay, I'm going to try and be very careful here. Okay. Okay, they're going in quite well. A little dabble do you, apparently. So that's what we're doing, a little dabble do you. Now, some of you are going to be saying to me, Phil, you're saying, where are your sprues? Well, this kit doesn't have any. It's an extraordinary piece of engineering. It's beautifully done. So that's the first thing they want you to do. The next thing that they're going to want you to do is they're going to want you to put in screws on these sides here. And I'll show you these. So it's interesting. The way this works is you've got this screw which is going to clamp down, and you can see how this is machined. And it's going to clamp down on this armature piece. Now it's not going to clamp down on it to where you can't move it, but it will clamp down on it to where it bites, and you've got a little stiffness, and that's what you're looking for. You're looking for stiffness. No comments from the back of the room, please. Thank you. Okay, so now what they do explain is that some of these, not all of them, but some of them. Oh, I'm in the wrong one. Some of them apparently are not biting correctly. They're a little too loose, just in the machining of this. So what they're recommending you do in that case is put a coat of paint on this. And that coat of paint, that skin, is enough just to give this a little more bite. Now, a lot of that paint would come off, obviously, as you push it in. But I'm hoping we don't have to do that. It doesn't appear as though it's super loose. But I'm not going to know that until I tighten these down. Now, these are not going to require any of the thread lock. So that's what we're going to do next. Okay, so as I mentioned, we're going to go ahead and install these armature couplings. And as I mentioned, Merlin said that there is a little bit of a discrepancy sometimes in the way these are milled. And if there's an issue, a little bit of paint, just paint it, and that causes a skin. It's enough of a skin to help this friction fit this. But I've installed this one, and I have been carefully, because I don't want to strip it, but carefully squeezing down on this. And this is work. This is nice and stiff. So you can remove it, you can move it, but you can't pull it out easily, and that's what you want. You don't want it so tight that you can't move it, but you want it tight enough that it bites, and it is biting. So that's good news. So we're going to go ahead and install the second screw here, and let that do its magic. Again, no Loctite. They don't want any Loctite on this. Oh, I can definitely feel this one is slightly different. It's interesting. So we'll just snug that. I'm being careful not to. Yeah, that's perfect. Yeah, this one slightly different, but it locked down beautifully. So that takes care. That takes care of that. So there you go, and we end up with this. We continue. And the final piece of this part one is to install one of these small hex nut screws here. And that is going to go into the armature for what is going to be the neck. Now all we need to do is just install this. Now I say Merlin, the demonstration is suggesting a little bit of lock thread, but I'm not going to put my lock thread in just at the moment. There's for fear of not being able to move this screw at all. So I'm just going to go ahead and screw this in, and it bites nicely, and I can see how the engineering of this is such that as I continue to tighten down on this piece, we're going to get a bite for the neck piece here. and that is a good thing. Okay, so that is installed. So now we move on to the legs, and that will be this segment coming up. I'm going to pull all the parts and we'll proceed on to the legs. Okay, we're jumping over to the feet now, and then as soon as I've started that, I'm going to be sort of trying to understand the mechanics between the videos that were presented to us on how to build the armature versus the instruction booklet, which actually has you starting in a completely different place. But the armature itself is sort of the basis of the model, really. So everything builds on top of it. So really, you can build the armature first and then start adding your exterior pieces. So we're going to be closely monitoring that to make sure we don't run into any issues in terms of the construction. But right now we're going to feet, and these are the two elements that are provided for us. And what is explained is that these elements here that actually hold the ankle and allow it to sort of pose have they have an inside circle piece, which you can see here. Actually, you can see it here. And then they have this element here on the outside, which is just it's a little hole, and they explain to you that that hole is nothing more than to let you know that it needs to be on the outside of both of the feet, so you don't run into any trouble. So I've orientated these correctly. I have my screws, and I'm going to add just a little bit of Loctite here to them, just a little bit, and I can go ahead and I can run that down the just the base, the whole sort of spine of the screw it wants you to, just to make sure, I guess, that these don't come out. So we're going to do that. Doesn't need much, but it's probably a smart idea to do this, and obviously the reason why they're asking us to do that is because they don't want these armatures to fall apart. Okay, so I'm going to set this one aside. I'm going to turn this one over, and I'm going to insert my screws. All right, and we'll get that screwed in. That thread's a little tight. Well, that's okay. That's a good thing. Okay, that one went in. I'm not going to super lock it down just yet. I'm going to just get it snug so that I know it's in. Now, the machining on these is excellent, but they did caution us that some of the parts might be slightly off. But you do have to make sure that you get it exactly where it needs to be, because otherwise you're going to be in a world of hurt because they're not coming out. Okay, so that's one. And my orientation is correct, and this is 2. And my orientation is correct. So we're going to go ahead and insert these screws here. Now I know if my friend Wayne is watching, he's going to be laughing, going, "Oh, it's Partworks." It is indeed Partworks. It's Partworks. And that was a little bit of a concern for me, is because I am so easily, because I'm slightly dyslexic, I say slightly, I am dyslexic, I have a tendency to, if I can screw it up, I will, kind of thing. Okay, they're in, and they are on the opposite sides as requested, and there are them's pieces. So far, so good. We carry on. Okay, so in this module, we're going to be installing our ankle joints together. These beautifully machined pieces slide into the top of the joint like this. And then there's a pin. Here's the pin. And this pin is going to slide in and lock it in place. And what's clever about it is the way this is engineered, you've got the square side and you've got the round side. So the pin goes in the round side and it's going to lock from the square side. So that's what we're going to do right now. So it is in, and I'm going to slide this in. Now the engineering of this is such that this is it's quite snug. So I've noticed that. So what we're going to do is just going to give this a little tap. I've got a soft top hammer here, and we'll just give this a little tap right here. Bam, and that's it. And that is really snug, but works quite well. So there's one, and then I'm going to go ahead and do the other one here. Again, circle side in, and we'll sort of find the square, and I'm just giving mine a little tap, and they're in. And you could put just a little bit of oil on this, I suppose, if you want to, but I just like the snugness of it. I think that's very impressive, and that takes care of those ankle joints. And just like the head section, you've got the same setup here, where you've got this milled piece here that forms a sort of vice grip on the armature leg, and they wanted just a couple of hex screws, which we inserted here. I just put these in. Now again, the videos call for some Loctite, but I don't feel like I need it. These are mine are really stiff. But if once I decide what my actual pose is going to be, we may change our minds. But those set screws were the next piece that they wanted us to put in, so that's what we've done. Okay, so starting with the left foot, we have two plates. We have one that is threaded. Let's see here. Well, I think you can see it, but you'll have to take my word for it. This one is threaded, and one is not threaded, and this one is not threaded. And the idea is that they are going to be your knee joints. So we have a large screw that from the inside goes through the first plate, through the foot, and out the other side, so that the threaded piece ends up on the outside of this. And then we're asked to tighten that down. I'm just going to finger tighten this for now, just so it doesn't go anywhere. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to then insert the top of this piece, and I'm going to use a little Loctite, and I'm going to screw this down, and that will complete this section. And that will so I need to do that for the opposite leg. So I'm going to go ahead and get that done, and we'll show you what that looks like. And here they are, standing nice and proud. Now the interesting thing about it is this replicates the exact filming miniature. And so they had a camera side and a non-camera side. And so what you'll notice is on one side the screws are on the inside, and on the other side the screws are on the outside, which is curious, but it was simply because one side was the filming side and one side was the non-filming side. And I think that's an interesting touch. And I do appreciate the fact that the guys at Merlin wanted to make sure that they were absolutely authentic to the filming miniatures. That's pretty cool. Okay, so here they are in all of their glory. And what we'll do now is we're going to continue on to the next segment. Okay, we're moving right along. Now we're going to install the ankle pieces. And what I'm just excited about the fact that this is exactly the way the stop motion armature was constructed at ILM for the filming miniature. That's pretty cool. So that's what we're building, a replica of that. Okay, so let's work on these ankle pieces here. It's a beautifully machined piece, and it slides in like that. And then we're just going to go ahead and flip it over like that. And we're going to get just a little bit of Loctite. And we're going to go ahead and put that on our little screw. And we're going to drop this in place. Like that. And that gives you this wonderful motion. Now, a lot of these parts, including these screws right here, are going to be covered up by the exterior parts. So that's good. It's good to know. But there you go. There's the one. And we're going to go ahead and do the identical thing on this one. We're going to go ahead and install our ankle piece like that. And we're going to go ahead and get a little Loctite on our screw. And we're going to drop this in. Now, I have to say, interestingly enough, just for those of you who may have this kit and are following me, I have found that the videos that Merlin put out showing you how to actually construct these are a lot more exemplary than the actual guide itself. Just a heads up. And there they are. Those ankle pieces are in and ready to go. So that is pretty cool. Pretty cool. Okay, so we're gonna keep going here and try to construct the entire armature in, and that will be part one of the of this presentation, and then we'll go ahead in part two and we'll begin the construction of the exterior onto the actual frame itself. But let's carry on. Okay, continuing up the leg, we've got some spring steel straps. Here they are. And if you sort of apply pressure to them, they fall back into place, which is why they're called spring steel. Okay, now what you're asked to do is attach these to the back of the legs where that ankle brace was, and it goes over that brace, and it's going to create a little bit of tension for the back here. And the way that is attached is we're going to take just a little bit of our Loctite. Just going to put just a touch, you don't need much, on the end of this screw. We're going to take our steel plate, attach it to the top of the armature like this, and we're going to put that in place like that. And so now it creates this wonderful tension So clever. Just keeps it in place. Very clever. So I'm going to do the same to the opposite side. Just a little bit of the Loctite. Take my tension plate. And attach it. Okay, voila. It's looking good. Looking good. So yeah, it's going together really well. I'm not big into... Years ago when I was a kid, I had a Meccano set. I don't know what they call it here in the States. In England, it was called Meccano. And you could, you know, it had little strips of metal and holes and screws, and you could build all kinds of things. Cranes with winches and things. It was a lot of fun. It was pre-Lego for me, which is interesting. But I had a Meccano set, and so I'm having flashbacks to Meccano. We'll carry on. Work continues on the head now. So we have this back on the bench, and what we're going to do is we're going to install this armature over here with this armature like this, and we're going to then install yeah, like this, and then we're going to install this piece that will eventually hold the neck. So that's the next step here, and we're going to pay attention to how these screws go in. Now I'm using a little more of the Loctite here, and that drops in, and we can go ahead and tighten that up. Now you want to be careful that you don't tighten it to where you don't have any friction, but you want, you know, you want some play, but you don't want too much. There, that's good. That's good. And then we're going to add the headpiece itself, and that drops in like this. And again, a little more of the Loctite. And we'll drop that in. And you know, you want to make sure that everything moves, but you don't want it to be loose. So that's good. And that locking screw will tighten this up accordingly. So I'm going to go ahead and do that, and then I'm going to move on to these hip joints here, and we'll install those. Okay, so this armature here is going to allow us to connect the walker's legs to the hips. And it requires some tension screws at both ends. And so we'll get those installed now. And no Loctite on these because they are tension screws, so they don't require it. So we'll get those in, and they're going to allow the arms to lock to the rest of the body. So we'll get those in snug. Now I'm having, now we were cautioned that these black screws, if there's too much tension put on them, they'll strip. And I have to tell you, they're precarious. They're not like steel screws. So now they did say that they were following very specific specs, and when they did their research, they wanted to be absolutely 100% accurate to the research. Thus, they had a difficult time, I guess, finding steel screws in those particular dimensions. So they went to these black screws, and they do caution you that these black screws are not as forgiving as a steel screw is. And so you do have to be really super careful. And I have to tell you, I've come up against this already. I've noticed that in trying to tension these, just to get it to where, you know, it's relatively stiff, because you would want your sort of the ability to pose this. So you would want it to be relatively stiff. But I could imagine what would have happened in filming after hundreds and hundreds of hours of just, you know, move a little film, take a photo, move a little photo to get that stop motion effect. Okay, and then it wants you to just simply attach these to the the legs like so, and then tension these up, and then we'll be ready to go ahead and attach the legs to this. Okay. Attaching the legs to the body, or the hips, is simply a matter of adding these pins. You can see I've put this one on here, and then there is going to be some rings that clip over the outside just to make absolutely sure nothing moves. They're awkward, so I placed it in its in situ off camera. Because it took me quite a little bit just to sort of make sure everything is lined up correctly. And so now I'm just finding the exact position and locking these in place, tensioning these down, and then they're going to need clips. But this is basically your frame. In situ, as it should be. So what I have to do now is I just have to tension these up so that it will stand on its own, and then I can put these little clip rings on here. So we've got our snap ring tool and our little rings, and it's interesting. What you do is you take your tool, and it sits in the prongs of the tool, and then you carefully squeeze it like that, and then you simply drop it over your pin like this, and it should drop right on. Let's see here. There we go. Get in there. There we go, and it clips right on. And when it's on, it's going to look like that. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and put the rest of the rings on, and then we'll move on. And there it is. The armature for the ATST is now complete. And what I'm going to do now is just go around and make sure that all of the nuts and or the screws, I should say, are tightened correctly, and then we'll be ready in part 2 to start assembling the model and putting all of the exterior elements of this on the armature. I thought it was important to take the entire episode and do this so that you could see the progression of this, the quality of this, and the way this is put together, because this is exactly the way the filming miniature was produced, and this is in 1/24th scale. And in the original in The Empire Strikes Back, the ATSTs were built this way, and then the plastic parts or the kit parts were attached to it. The kit bashed parts were attached to it with glue. Later in Jedi, they actually machine screwed, milled screws in, so all the parts were actually screwed in. And so I'm assuming that Merlin's Jedi version is screws and not glue. But we're going to go ahead and use Gorilla Glue for that. And I have that with me, the clear grip, which should attach to this anodized metal quite well. But I couldn't be happier with this, and you can see that I think this is going to be a really cool model. Just wanted to quickly show you the base that comes with it again. If you didn't see it in the unboxing, if you want to see all the parts, the individual parts, go back and find my unboxing video, and you'll see it. But this is quite hefty, and ultimately this model is going to live on this base. Like this, just like that. So it's going to be quite something to look at, and we just have to sort of figure out where this is going to live. But I mean, beautiful, absolutely beautiful, and I couldn't be happier with this. A lot of fun. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and I'm going to continue working on my ATST, just tightening everything up. And then in part 2, we'll start construction of the actual exterior of this chicken walker. Hey, if you want to get a hold of me, I'm spruverse@gmail.com. I post most days on my Instagram account. That's @spruverse. Hey, buy me a cup of coffee. That link is on my channel page. A big thanks and a shout out to Murray down under for all of his help and assistance. And so we'll see you next time. But as always, I wish all of you, please, be safe, be well, build something. And I'll see you next time. Take care, everybody. Be well.